We're live. What is up? Episode number
Yo.
50. Carpets and Coffee. We don't have Lucas with us. It's just me and Riley.
We're already at episode 50? That happened fast.
I know, right? Wow.
Dang.
I'm surprised.
That's cool.
Yeah, we went a little
Nice.
bit early tonight because usually, I don't know why we go later, but we do. And tonight we decided to go earlier.
I think we got in the habit of going later because it just kind of worked out for you and Lucas and work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
Fridays, as of recently, I've had off. So,
Well, that's cool.
but yeah, I figure maybe a little bit earlier, is maybe a little bit more appropriate for folks in different time zones to have a cup with us. But
Yeah.
in all honesty, you could have coffee anytime.
Yeah, I'm drinking. I'm back to the Coltrane from Red Bay Coffee. Pretty good. Pretty good.
Good.
I like it. I got a little. I was telling Riley before. Right now, I'm actually drinking a cappuccino that I kind of made at home, and I was surprised of how good it actually turned out. So there's this guy James Hoffman that, if anybody's into coffee, probably knows who he is. But if not, look him up on YouTube. If you want to geek out about coffee, he's the guy to watch. He is like, I think he's over in the UK. I'm pretty sure. And he just nerds out, man, like all the science and chemistry and all the stuff. Anyway, he had this recipe of, can you make a cappuccino without an espresso machine, without a the milk warmer and steamer and whatnot. And basically he uses a mocha pot and he uses a French press for the milk, right? So I'll run it through real quick just so, I guess it's maybe more like a flat white type of drink, but it's somewhere in between flat white and cappuccino. I know there's like specific amounts and stuff.
I was reading your notes and your whole method and recipe. I was like, whoa, this is science right here.
Yeah. So like you want to use hot water when you're putting, so a mocha pot is like, I don't know if people know, but it's kind of like this thing where you kind of like unscrew the top and it's like a percolator, right? So you put the coffee in here and then the water comes up through and it goes into the thing. It kind of gives you like this, I wouldn't say it's espresso, but maybe it's like an espresso type drink that you would get. But anyway, there's like, if you use cold water at the bottom, the brew temperature is going to be colder. So it's going to give you like the extraction early on is not going to be good. It's going to mess it up. So you want to start with boiled water, and pour it into the mocha pot, right? So you pour it in there, you grind it, and then there's a little thing that comes in the mocha pot. You just fill it up with coffee at the finest ground you can go. I have like this cheap $60 grinder, nothing fancy or anything. I just went on the lowest setting. And then what'll happen is the coffee starts to come out the top, and right as it gets to this, it does like this gurgle, like pull it off real quick off of the heat and run it under some cold water, set it aside. Then for the milk, you want to just kind of like warm it up. I use the saucepan. She used the saucepan, kind of warm it up. You don't want it too hot, like warm to the touch. And then you stick it in the French press, and then you just, go up, do it as you were going up and down, and it makes it frothy kind of. And again, it's not going to be exactly like it, but and then just add it to the coffee. Man, it was freaking delicious. So when Rob and his family was out, we went to this place in Hamburg, and I swore that nobody would ever be able to top this coffee. And I'm sitting there telling my wife yesterday, I was like, God damn, this is pretty close. This is pretty close. So it's delicious. If anybody's interested in the recipe or whatever, just send me a message and I'll send you the link to his video. It's pretty good. But the guy's James Hoffman. And if you're into coffee or learning about coffee, because as we were saying before, it's like this another whole hobby to get into of you can geek out on the stuff. So anyway, What are you drinking?
I'm drinking Cafe Luna, Cafe Vita. This was sent to me from Ryan Merritt of Kaleido Exotics. Actually, he came out and visited the area last summer and popped into the shop. So I showed him around the shop, and he excuse me, he ended up mailing me some coffee the other day. So figured I'd put it on the roast for today. So I threw it through a French press, and it's good.
Yeah. Nice. Did you ever try to do the French press the way I said, like where you waited for let it go a little longer, or you still do like the 4 minute?
No, I'm letting it go longer now.
Have you noticed a difference in the taste?
Yeah, this one went like 8 or 9 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't do a full brew because I don't want to like bounce off the walls, so I did like 2/3 of a press. So
yeah, I wanted to throw out for Lucas. He's doing I don't have the details in front of me, but he's doing a US Arc sort of it's like a raffle, right?
Yeah, some sort of a voucher thing. Where I think I'll see if I can find it on his what he posts on his Instagram, probably.
Yeah, I think so. He's young. He doesn't go on Facebook. That's for all old people like
Okay, so he's giving away a $300 voucher, which can be applied toward any available animal that he produces this year or in the future in support of US Arc. Blah, 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 blah. So if you go to his Instagram, his most recent post talks about it, but to enter, you donate $5 or more to US Arc, show him a screenshot proof of it, tag 3 friends in the comments of this post below who have a pet and may be affected and not know about the proposed legislation. And 3, you must follow Lucas's page, Centralian Exotics. Voucher is only valid for domestic USA shipments. Winners chosen via random number generator. Double entry if you are not yet a US Arc member and you sign up from scratch. So go check that out. Cool. He's got some cool stuff. Cool. He's got some nice hypo and hypostripe Bredli.
Didn't you just get one of them?
Yeah. I was not expecting that. I I was not on the docket for the day.
Right.
I was delivering him some 6-foot cages, and I helped build one of them so that I could leave him to do the other 2, and I could drive back to Sac because he's over in Oakland. Right. And while I was there, I toured his collection and filmed it. There will be a video coming out tomorrow showing all of his womas and things off. And spoiler alert, Lucas got his first blackhead bite.
Did he? Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
He jinxed himself, too. I mean, in that very day, he said he's never been bit by them. And then,
Oh, he said it. Damn.
Yeah, he said it. So
it's funny. Like me, you, Owen, and Lucas have this chat group going, and you guys are talking about like, how can I make room and this and that? But it seems like you guys are always just adding snakes and stuff.
Dude, Lucas seriously has like a lot of space.
Does he?
He's got a lot of space. His place is like it's like a 2-bedroom, really large 2-bedroom apartment essentially, but it's part of a house in Oakland. It's got this great view over the hill, and he's got way more space than my 2-bedroom. I can promise you that. And he's able to fit, multiple 6-foot cages and 4 and 5-foot cages all over the place. Like,
yeah, it's like what the hell?
Yeah, his uncle owns the building, so that's how he found it. But he's still paying. He's still paying solid rent. Like he's not getting it cheap, but it's worth it for the space.
I haven't paid rent in God, I don't know how long I lived in this house. 5 years now, I think it's been. Maybe I'm not sure. I can't keep track. 5-6 years. Anyway, I was talking to my brother-in-law, and he was saying about like the price he was paying for a rent down in Florida, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's more than my mortgage!" Like,
yeah, it's crazy, dude.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. I can't wait to one day own a house and then pay it off in a few decades.
Alan says, struggling college student, my ass.
I don't know how he does it. I think he's got a pot of gold hidden somewhere. I think he robbed an Irishman in Oakland and, did the thing. But, so he bribed me on my way out with a female 50% hypo striped Bredli. So
nice.
And she's feisty as hell. She's a biter. Oh yeah, dude. She's full of piss and vinegar. It's great. So he was telling me, because I'm not up to speed on all of the Bredli bloodlines and some of their commonalities and whatnot, but apparently a lot of the hypo stuff can be real, real tense. I don't think they're quite as bad as like some of the F1 Papuan stuff that we're seeing, but
dude, what is going on there? Holy shit, man. I don't think there's one F1 Papuan that hasn't been evil, just straight up evil.
No, I thought your female was like starting to mellow out, like, over the last few months, and then I was cleaning her the other day, and she just went berserk. I mean, what the?
That's the other one. There's something about the Axanthic IJs that they are just they're just the volatility, man. They're just so man.
Yeah,
they're very much like. So I had 2 wild caught Papuans, and so much different than dealing with captive bred carpets. Like,
yeah,
so different. Like, I don't know. I thought for some reason I thought that they were the same. I don't know. The ones we found in Australia didn't seem to be. I mean, they did take a swing and one got me, but I don't know. I guess I was just so jazzed to see a wild carpet that it didn't even matter. Not like it even matters anyway. I mean, their bites are kind of insignificant for the most part, but they're feisty, man.
Yeah.
Feisty snakes.
All of the F1s I held back are not to be trusted at all. That trio, they're not just full on strike right away. They kind of calculate for a minute, and it gets really eerie because you're like, very aware of how focused they are, and they're just lining you up. If you wait around long enough, you ask for it. But then, those head Axanthics, I treat them like they're hot. I treat them like venomous.
Yeah,
they're just mean.
The mom, I have a head Axanthic mom that she is probably the only adult carpet that I have that's pretty. You can't hold her. She just you can't. Not that I hold all my snakes anyway, but you can't even like typically I find with carpets is you kind of pull them out, even pythons just in general, right? As soon as you got them in your hands and they feel kind of like, okay, I guess this is okay. This is cool. They sort of calm down, but and even scrubs, like they'll sort of chill out. And then like all of a sudden when you think everything is good between you and them, that's when they take a shot. But like this girl, holy hell, man, it's woo. But mixing the granitine into there seems to, so the Axanthic, the double hets I have are a lot mellower.
Okay.
So I don't know what it is about that.
Well,
maybe
we'll see. I mean, I think next year the het female I have will be up to size. So
nice.
We'll see what happens there.
Nice. So what else you got going on as far as how's the season progressing? I mean, we're getting almost into springtime. It's almost a couple weeks will be March as we get in there.
Yeah, it's starting to warm up here much faster than elsewhere around the country. It seems like we were having lunch out on the patio outside in the sun today. It was nice. So I had a Philly cheesesteak.
Oh, nice. There you go.
Yeah.
Same place as what you shared the other day?
No, a different one. Found another spot.
Holy shit.
Went to this place called Burgers and Brew, and lo and behold, there's a Philly cheesesteak on their menu. I was like, well, I got to try this.
Right.
It was good. The one thing I don't think anybody gets right out here is the bread.
Yes. Very important.
I think that's like, you can get the meat cut right, seasoned right, have the peppers and onions and all that good stuff, cheese, however you feel. But the bread, like, if it's like this big, like kind of dense, like sub roll sort of thing, it's not, this is not the same. It's got to be. So,
yes. The weird thing about that is like the myth. I guess it makes sense to me, but I don't know it to be fact, right? But the myth is that there's something about the water. We can't even say it right anyway, but something about the water that's in Philadelphia and New Jersey that is what makes those rolls the way they are. So I don't know how true that is, but that's sort of what everybody says.
Hey, I did not do well in chemistry. And
if anybody out there knows that to be
who am I to dispute
please
that?
Let us know. But
there's a difference for sure.
What I've seen outside of like what I guess like this northeast section is like rolls seem to be like they're like all soft, whereas like our rolls are like crusty on the outside and soft on the inside, but not like a baguette. You know what I mean?
And not like hardcore like a Dutch crust sort of thing.
Right.
Which I love, by the way.
See, Robert said it's true. Okay, I'm with you, Robert. It's true. Something about the
All
water.
Right. There we go.
It's because we have water and you guys have water.
Exactly. We've scienced that, solved that one. So,
okay.
Yeah, I'm actually prepping for a lot of eggs this season. I just got a 20-pound bag of hatch right in the mail today. Prepping
have you used that before?
Yeah, it's like my preferred substrate. You don't have to add any water to it. You can nestle eggs straight in. It's got water crystals in it that are dry to the touch, but it adds humidity. You can do the suspended incubation method with it. You can nestle eggs right in. I've never had any less than like perfect performance as far as my media goes.
Gotcha. Okay.
So both of my female poplin carpets that I bred this year. So that super high orange one that I got from Chris Sharp. Okay. And then that really, really dark black one from Emily Stoddard.
Okay.
They are both for sure gravid.
Nice.
Both bred to like equivalent color toned animals. So just straight pure poplins, but one is very, melanistic in plan. The other is very high orange, high contrast in plan. So that'll be nice. It looks like both of my coastal tiger head axanthics are going. They were both bred by a male tiger head axanthic, so that'll be sick.
That's nice.
Yeah, I've been waiting to do that for a long time. So
yeah,
raised all those animals up. They're all 2017s. The male, he's already twice proven, but these females have just been sitting on. So, and then that jungle that I got in from Todd has been breeding my striped male.
That jungle I fucking love that jungle, man. Every time you send me a picture of that, I'm like, oh man,
she's something else. She's switched on, man. She's electric for sure. And then I don't know I think the big girl has also been breeding with that same striped male, the one that I got from Travis that Nick produced. That's
okay,
very like ivory looking sort of.
Yep.
So we'll see if that goes. I still don't see anything promising out of the Darwins. I just separated them today, so I'm going to give the female a meal if she'll take it and see what that does. And then obviously now that we're hitting spring, starting to try the Bredli, and we'll see where that goes. And then my Crebo is gravid, so I'll be getting another crack at eggs from her.
Man, you're crushing it.
And then one gravid rainbow boa right here. I don't think she's going to go, but I could be wrong. So potentially 6 clutches of carpets, a clutch of Crebos, and a litter of rainbows.
Nice.
I'm going to need another hatchling rack.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's nice.
Oh, well. Good problem to have. We've got PVC. Grant can make me one.
Right. Yeah, right. There you go. Yeah, I'm just starting to slowly warm up the diamonds and the inlands as the days get longer. So I have them set up on. I have this big window that's right in front of me, and they're right over here, and I have a timer for the female right here because I'm slowly the one with the light on here. Mm-hmm. I'm slowly switching them all over to having a heat bulb rather than a heat panel.
Okay,
probably doing that this weekend because I finally got the bulb whatever you call them. It's like the holder from Arcadia, where you can screw it up to the top.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that is set up through one of those smart plugs. And you can go, I think I talked about this before. You can go into shortcuts on your iPhone and you can get that automated to go by sunrise and sunset.
That's the coolest
which is
thing
just awesome.
ever.
You don't have to do anything.
That's perfect. Ugh.
So odd thing is that I think I've talked about this before, where all of a sudden when I put that bulb in there, she just would not go away from that bulb. She wouldn't leave it. She was under it. What I've noticed now is she's over on the cool side of the cage. So I don't know if that means like maybe we're getting some growth on the follicles. I don't know, but it's fun when you haven't bred an animal like before. And that's sort of what we're going to talk about in our main topic is harder to breed species. But so I'm pretty excited about that. If I just get diamond pythons, I'll be happy as
knock that out of the park.
Happy as can be. So this female's Riverbank Zoo that I got from actually Martin Rosemond sold it to me, which I'm sure you probably regret.
Diamonds, and I'm like, God, these are nuts.
Yeah.
Oh.
And
the black and white ones, the black and yellow ones, the high yellow, RPDs. Oh,
and then the male is from Greg Heim, and that's just the San Diego Zoo, but it's from his reduced pattern pairing. But I think it's just the male. The male is just a reduced pattern. The other one was just a San Diego Zoo. So normal looking diamond python, but I'll be curious to see what happens. So.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, man. So that's what I got going on.
So you're treating your inlands like spring breeders?
I am. I don't know if that's right.
I think so. That's what I keep reading from people is that they sort of.
Yeah. And then I was reminded when Chuck was on NPR, he was talking about like the first year he bred inlands was like he treated them like coastals and they bred. So I don't know, man. I think it's like one of those things where, they could probably go either way. Maybe I don't know. But Darwin's to me are the ones, and we'll get into that. But to me, I think there's something different about them. I don't know where you fall with that because I know we've talked about other breeders that have bred them and they sort of treat them the same. But I don't know, man. I think there's something different about them.
Yeah, I mean, Todd doesn't have any problem producing them in Southern California. I have all the problems trying to produce them, and I've tried in Southern California and now Northern California.
Right.
So
I don't know. You must have some secret.
I don't know. I've talked to him. He's like, I literally don't do anything different.
That's what people say, but there's so many little nuances to your reptile room that who knows if it, you may not know you're doing it. Even, but so that's what's sort of going on here. But the topic we wanted to talk about, Keith and Rob and I were in this match. Keith McPeak, Rob Stone, we were talking in this message, and Keith brought up this point that that I think he's heard this from numerous people. I've kind of ring this bell in the past. I know Ryan Young has, and Nick and all these guys have sort of said this, that that basically he was questioning the mentality that if you keep snakes that are hard to breed for long enough without making any changes, they will adjust to the rhythm of your room and reproduce. So he's kind of calling BS on that a bit. And a few of his points, I don't know if you want to go through the points and we can kind of go back and forth with what we think, but a few of his points. But here's the first one. If you think a species you are working with is mature at 5 years old, and it does not breed for you at 5 years old, and you don't change anything, and it breeds at 7 years old, is this what would be called it adapted to your condition, is now breeding? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I see his point in contesting it. I mean, that could it's hard to say that it's finally adapted. It could also just be actually maturing, and maybe the 5-year mark is a loose guideline, but maybe it varies from animal to animal based on feeding age and regiment and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see why that's, because we really can't quantify that, right?
Yeah, like how do you know when an animal's mature? I mean, so many things could affect that, no? I mean, how much you feed it, if we're going by size or weight, maybe that's not right. If you're going by age, how do you know what the age is? Like it just, I don't know if there's ever been studies on that. Like I know that we sort of know. I can't think of anything that would say like a specific age, or am I?
I mean, I think it obviously would vary from species to species, but like we always used to talk about with carpets, you can tell when they mature, they get that really profound head, and so maybe with carpets, they're a little bit easier. But I have very limited experience with Boeleni, but I can tell you the one we have at the shop, she's only maybe like 3 years old or so, and other than not being at full girth and size, like she's got a big head already. And yeah, we know they're gonna mature a little bit later, 7 to 10, but I foresee her hitting that adult mature sort of look probably earlier than that. And then it's how do you know when she's mature if you're just going off of looks? If she already looks like an adult at 5, but really they don't mature till like 7 to 10 or even later. In that 5 to 10 age gap, if she doesn't change much, what's to tell you other than behavior or something else, but not off looks? So maybe certain species are harder because they look at adult size at a certain point, but they're not really reproductive until a few years later, perhaps.
Yeah, I think my thought, again, I've never kept Boeleni, and Keith is sort of coming from the aspect of Boeleni, right? And he's sort of he believes, I hope I'm not misquoting him, but he believes that like there's something different about this species of python. And I guess if you look at them and their natural history, clearly they're different than other pythons because they're high in the mountains. They're they haven't really been, I don't know of a lot of studies that have been done on them in the wild, except for Ari, maybe Mark Spataro, maybe Daniel Natusch. I don't know if he did anything with Boelens, but they're from a harsh environment. It's cold all the time. I don't know. So and I think the idea of being successful with a species is, to me, Chuck really, when Chuck was on, again, going back to Chuck's episode on NPR, where he was talking about the Halmaheras, breeding them once or twice could be just luck. But to continually be able to reproduce them similar to like how ball pythons are produced or carpets are produced, that's when you've kind of figured it out.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it can't just be these one-offs or whatever. I mean, we've seen Moluccan scrubs produced this year or last year.
Yeah.
I don't know. Was that just you had the two right animals and just so happened to the stars aligned type of deal? Or, I mean, even look at Frederick with his Boelens over. He did it, 2 years in a row?
Mm-hmm.
And then he can't reproduce it again. So I don't know. Do you find them to be different than, say, a scrub python with your experience with working with them?
A little bit. I mean, they're very similar to scrubs. But the way they process their surroundings is definitely different. They're a little more slower and calculated. They seem to kind of have a different pace about them. Scrubs kind of remind me of like going full throttle, like from 0 to 100, whereas these guys they can do that, but they seem more like calculated and reserved at times.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. They're definitely different. Definitely different from like any of the scrubs that I've, handled over at Brandon's place or at work or wherever. They are similar but different. Similar in build and behavior, but
different.
Yeah, there's something else to them. I can't quite explain it. I don't know. It's
yeah. I one of the things that, like, when we were all talking, that one of the things that I learned with keeping all these different species of pythons and whatnot is, I think I think I was sort of cocky and thinking that like, oh, they're python. A python is a python. You treat them all the same. And like, I think what I've learned is just like there's these little nuances to from species to species that you just, if you get it right, they're going to be okay. But if you get it wrong, you're screwed,
Yeah.
You can't treat a white lip like a Bredli. You can't treat, you know what I mean? So it's like these little, like, you don't want to treat you can't even treat a diamond python like a jungle. Kind of have to,
Yeah.
So I don't know. So that was one thing. And then he said Keith's produced many species of reptiles across the board and is having a hard time producing the Boelens, right? Which everybody basically is. But Boeleni, Keith knows quite a few people that have raised Boeleni from hatchlings and kept them the exact same way for 10 years and didn't get a clutch. So the question is, what exactly is the examples of leaving the animals alone? Like, not changing a thing, and after, let's say, 5 to 10 years after maturity, the animals start producing like clockwork, year in and year out, because they adapted to the rhythm of your room. That kind of sounds silly when you say it like that, like.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing's changed, why would they all of a sudden change?
Yeah, I tend to think that thinking is that a lot of them, especially in the earlier days, were wild caught. Same with scrubs, same with hounds. And well, hounds are probably notorious for this, of just dropping dead. I mean, I must have had 10 of them and they would be going great. And then just all of a sudden out of nowhere, they would just drop dead, probably stress, probably who knows the reasons why. Probably should have figured that out, but they're just so they seem to be shy at first, and then talking to Rob and talking to Chuck and Shane and whatnot is like that kind of changes when they feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And they go to like scrub. I equate it to like a croc monitor walking around at a reptile show is going to probably be more subdued than if you gave it its hotspot and said, here you go. You're probably going to get a different animal,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot we don't know about some of those species and their climates and what they experience. We have an idea, but until we really go there, I mean, we're kind of pulling at straws.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think with, Keith uses an example a lot of this species of bird, right? That like, he just uses an example of like trying to figure out how to breed and how it can be this little thing, right? This bird pretty much goes and lays an egg in another bird's nest. And then that bird hatches and pushes the other chicks out of the nest. And then the bird that had the nest sort of raises that other bird's bird. How would you ever know to reproduce, to be able to reproduce them in captivity? How would you ever know to do something like that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he seems to think it's something along those lines. Like there's something
else we're missing.
Right. I thought maybe it was migration. I was watching, I think it was Planet Earth, something, one of those things. And they were talking about flamingos and how they had to migrate to this certain spot. The idea that, again, talking to Ari over the years, he's never stumbled upon a male in the wild, makes me think, like, why are there no males around in these spots that he's going? So do they have to migrate a certain amount? Like, I don't know, man. It's I guess it's the fun of it, but
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I don't know. Robert said so. Oh shit, my lights went out. Robert had said something about altitude with them, but when you think about it, like I know Rob's worked at Pro Exotics, and I know they're in Colorado.
Quetzal's bred him in Costa Rica, right?
Right. Well, Balin's bred him in Maryland. I don't think that's
none of that's exceptionally high altitude.
Right. I think that was early thinking that was sort of the reason. I know early on too, we sort of talked about nest box. Like they like really needing a solid dark nest box because you listen to Ari and his trips, he would talk about how he would find these females, in these cuckoo couscous sparrows, and just down there, and it's like 80 degrees down in the barrow. So thinking like if you had a cage and then underneath you just had like a big nest box, similar to what they do with monitors, I guess. But even then, Rob had those out at, I think Pro Exotics had like cages on top of cages, and they might have went 6 high of all these different things, places that the Boelens can go, and nothing. So I don't know. And it, as we were talking too, it's sort of like, even with diamond pythons, like you don't really see them produced a lot in captivity. And it made me think, why? Why do you think that? Why do you think?
I mean, they're clearly different. I've talked to Todd about that, and Todd has to go to great lengths to get his cooling at night because Southern California's climate is so temperate. And he's definitely a huge, like, I would say, student of Gary Valle, and he's spoken to me about what he's learned from him, and Gary Valle is on another level of understanding those animals, though.
Yeah. God, I would love to talk to him. He was on NPR for like 10 minutes one time.
Yeah, that guy apparently has them really like figured out.
Yeah.
And yeah, so what Todd's learned from him, some of it you can't explain or put into words and teach, just kind of see and feel. But yeah, I mean, he does a lot of cooling, pushing and pulling air, dropping nights really cold, heavy ventilation, lots of circulation, stuff like that to get them cool. And yeah, so I don't know if there's more to it than that, as far as like if they have a very precise cycle, or if these animals require certain triggers, wild breeding, or what. I don't know. So
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll find out. Now, did Todd like sort of have to figure that out over time, of like constant failures and saying, okay, let me tweak this?
Yeah, he definitely went through multiple like cage designs to try and figure out how to get things cool, and placement in the warehouse and different techniques and things. So yeah, he definitely had to work at it, even with being able to speak with Gary Valle. I think again, you kind of just got to do it and tweak things along the way, and till you get your plan sort of effectively in place for them.
I think that's sort of Keith's point, right? Keith's point is that you sort of have to change things from year to year.
I think he's probably onto something. It's so interesting because up until we've had this sort of discussion and you presented this template for the show today, I haven't really thought about any other sort of like, I've kind of just blanket like all species. You just got to let them settle in. You just got to leave them alone and let them settle in, and just like that'll work for everything over time. Just be patient. But I guess that's probably in itself overgeneralizing.
Yeah.
Maybe there's levels to that too.
I think with wild caught animals, I think the key to them, and this is sort of the topic that I brought up to him. I think that today's, well, maybe not, maybe it's changing a bit, but let's just say from 10 years ago to now, I think the focus has always been, I'm going to get this animal to breed it, right? And I think that the idea should be, I'm going to get this animal and keep it and then breed it. But I think the focus is from day one, whether you're getting this little hatchie or you're getting, a wild caught adult snake, the focus is trying to get it to breed it. And maybe that's where things get screwed up, because I think you don't really learn if you're okay. I shouldn't say this in general. I'm going to say for me, I didn't learn that much from breeding snakes as much as I learned from keeping snakes, if that makes sense. Because breeding snakes seems to be like this window of the year. I know you gotta, get them going all year, and you gotta, you can't. It's not like you just show up in November, start dropping temps, and everything's gonna be great. But like you sort of have to learn what's normal, right? And then you can sort of see what's not normal and say, oh, well, wait a minute, a behavior has changed. Why has it changed? I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely think like in the first few years of keeping carpet pythons, I thought I had them understood. And then looking back on it, I feel like I knew very little. I still know, fractions of what there is to know. But at the same time, I definitely think having a large sample size of working with over, several hundred carpet pythons in the last decade, has kind of allowed me to keep my finger on the pulse of a lot of these animals and given me a lot more experience visually and hands-on to kind of have a better understanding overall.
Right.
And be able to read them and understand kind of what they're telling me. And that coupled with, researching their natural history and just being huge fans of them and just kind of really diving in and trying to understand them as much as possible has helped me put together a rather well-rounded perspective and picture on them. And breeding is another layer of helping and understanding, but there's definitely more to the animals than that, because in the rest of the year, if you pay attention, they have cycles, they have behaviors, they have patterns, they do different things. So
yeah. And I guess for me, that's sort of been, I guess that's maybe this is also it comes from perspective, right? Because like take you and Owen, who sort of have these multitude of different species besides pythons, and you're getting to experience I guess my eyes have been open to that sort of thing ever since adding like the lizards and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because now you're forced to think differently. You can't just apply the Python stamp to this. It's different. Yep. And you guys experience that all the time. Like you got your colubrids, you got your boas, you got your pythons, you got these even the weird. I mean, even like the Madagascar hog stuff that you bred.
Mm-hmm.
That's not something that you see. That weren't you like one of the first? You were the first one to do that, right?
I wasn't the first. No, there had been a few people that had done it before me. I was one of the probably I would say there's, including myself, maybe fewer than 10 people that have bred them.
So not a lot of information out there about them. So like, how did you figure that out? Like,
I mean, obviously I was guessing and throwing at the wall to see what stuck. And I tried a couple methods. I tried housing them individually and I found that they were very stressed. And while, because I noticed every time I checked on them when they were individually housed, they would lose their shit and go bananas. Right. I was like, that can't be normal or good. And I just remembered looking up as much information online, noticing a lack of it. And while kind of just grabbing at stuff here and there, I even have it like bookmarked still up there. There's just an interesting documentation of some collective denning behavior and stuff like that from some females. And it just got me thinking about maybe they're more communal than we think. They talk about them being kind of abundant in a lot of their areas. So maybe they share dens similar to rattlesnakes. And so I was like, I've got an open 4-foot cage. Let's throw all three of these together. And instantly they took to one another. I would catch them in a big ball together using hides together. Wow. I stuck a camera in there for a year and like caught some of the craziest weird behaviors, breeding behaviors. They're a very interesting. I think what's published out there on them is probably partially correct too. It's not the whole picture because everything that I read said they were diurnal and mine were active at night, like every night.
They didn't read the book.
I caught them breeding. Like soon as lights out, then the camera would go into night vision. And that's when I caught some of the craziest activity and breeding out of them was at night. So I don't know. I'd feed them during the day though. They're happy to do that. So I think they're just, they just rest when they can. I don't think they play by any rules like that. And so I think me just grabbing at straws from what little information that was absolutely not related to their husbandry,
right, and
just making random inferences and guesses, and then just working with what I had, and then just paying attention. I think paying attention was the biggest thing for me, because had I not put the camera in, or oh cool, I just watched my gopher snake do some digging behavior like that Woma. Speaking of behavior, had I not been paying attention to that stuff, I don't think I would have understood them. Had I not thought about their stress levels every time I checked on them as they were housed individually, I would not have gone down the rabbit hole of looking into communal cohabitation with them. And it made all the difference. I would have otherwise had really stressed animals, treated them like pythons, looked at, where they are on latitude lines, and be like, okay, try and breed them like stuff in Indo or Australia. And I would have otherwise just, periodically paired them, and maybe it would have worked. I think that's what other people have done successfully. But for me, I wanted to be hands off because they were imports and they hated me. So,
right.
I found that worked out.
That's sort of the approach that I would say that you would take with imports, is you want to try to get them settled in and get them hydrated and get them, get some food into them, and, getting them feel confident in their enclosure and all this kind of stuff. I remember with the hounds, right? This is a perfect example. I remember when I got my very first one, it was like 2009, I think it was. And the current state of thought with those is that you have to keep them super humid and super hot. As opposed to a carpet would be at say 82 to 85 hot spot. This was like 95 to 100 hot spot type of deal, Brutal. And, I remember Rob, and this is like when I think this was like when me and Rob first started talking or whatever, but he sent me he looked up the average rainfall in Birdsboro, PA, where Owen lives. And it actually rained more than it does in Halmahera. So this whole idea was just bullshit,
Interesting.
And I remember moving them from a cage to a tub, and it completely did a 180. Settled down, started eating. Everything was good. And then it just all of a sudden, I think I had that for maybe 6 to 8 years, and then it just dropped dead, but
I think the lesson is you can't, one size does not fit all. Especially when it comes to the less common, less established species of any snake, python, boa, and colubrid. The Apodora are another example. Just watching how I
was going to bring them up,
how they behave with different variables: light, no light, paper, substrate. Me going in while they're in shed versus not. The male was in a tub at one point, the older male, and he was completely trustworthy. I could reach and pick him up, no problem. He was great. As soon as I move him in the cage, game over. He's territorial, just like the female, and I'm curious because the younger male is in the tub and I can pick him up. I bet you he will shift just the same as soon as I give him the space to defend. I don't know if they're extremely visual though. So I think coming from a tub where the stimuli is relatively closed off to open, and they're just kind of like, what's going on? And then you're their only interaction. I think they're smart enough at least to know that it's not food right away, so you can get away with it. But as soon as you give them space to understand, patrol, visually see everything, and then it smells like them because you can't keep an Apodora's enclosure spotless. I think they very much need to feel safe at home. For the first few weeks, those things pace the cages like they had no idea where they are, glass surfing, super stressed out, not happy. And now they have like daily routines. The male's casually sitting with his head out of his hide right now. He shed last night. Like they're settled in, you know, but I don't think, you know, all species are like that. I think everyone has their different thing. And even within species, some have their own personality quirks. And then there's compatibility. That is a whole nother variable that you got to get into with some of those different species.
Dude, I really think, at least with pythons, I think that's something that's often overlooked. And just this mindset, again, I think it comes from the breeding mindset from, you know, like the 2006 to 2018 mentality of like, oh, I'm just going to buy a pair and I'm just going to take them home. They're just going to breed. It's like, yeah, that may work for, you know, like a ball python or a carpet python, but you know.
Yeah, I think if Chuck didn't have his 2.1, he would not have been successful. If he didn't have that more dominant male and he only had that submissive male, things might have been very different. And I don't think it's necessarily like, sometimes it's probably the competition. That's probably a worthwhile factor to note, but I think there's a compatibility thing there. And I would, not being involved in white lips personally, but paying attention from the outskirts, I would venture to guess that there's probably an element of compatibility challenges in folks trying to breed white lips, especially because the ones I have seen and worked with, they're either nice and they're confident where they're at and they're comfortable with whatever's going on, or they are defensive, stressed, not comfortable with what's going on. And I think there's an element of confidence within the personality of each animal that probably plays to that compatibility. Like a high stressed, freaked out animal is not going to want to breed. No. They're going to be sitting in the back corner trying not to die, or that's what they think. So I think there's an element of that too.
Yeah. You know, Brandon's in the chat and he sort of brought up that you know, that people forget that each snake is its own individual. I guess that's sort of what we're saying, right? You know,
yeah, absolutely.
Have their own preferences within, even just within the species, you know, like I could say that's that. I think that's, at least that's my thought, right? There's always this, we've talked about it a million times, where there's this pull of like, if you're going to work with, you know, species that you're trying to figure out, I think just working with a pair, maybe you're going to get lucky, but I don't think you're doing yourself any favors for a multitude of reasons, right? Number one, what if something happens to one of them? That's number one. Now you've waited, you know, 6 years to raise this wild caught animal up, and then you're screwed, you know.
Now you're back to square one.
Correct. And who knows, at that point, maybe you're not going to be able to import them or whatever, you know.
Or maybe the other one you have is old, and by the time you raise up another one, that one's too old or dies.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the idea that, you know, somehow these, that, you know, I guess maybe, do you think it's just our idea of reptiles as a whole that are not smart or don't think, or, you know, they see another snake in the wild and they're just going to breed with it because they're just trying to propagate the species, you know? Maybe there's a little more to it than that, you know? I mean, you know.
So it's really interesting. I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast the other day, and the guest he had on kind of brought up a point. He's like, you know, nobody notices they're in the middle of a revolution. It's like, we're in the middle of a revolution right now.
I heard that. Yes.
It's years and years later when you're kind of like, it comes back around and it's being discussed, and then it's kind of like, I guess that was a bit of a revolution. I think that's kind of what's going on right now. I've kind of been feeling that, like, deep down over the last couple of years, there's some sort of a renaissance going on. And part of it is because of the spread of information via internet and social media and whatnot. It's just bound to happen. But I also think more people are getting involved, which means more perspective is coming to the table, and you're getting some pretty brilliant and curious people getting involved, and more eyes means more discovery at the very least, from that sort of a standpoint. So I think the more we have people involved and thinking differently, the more questions we ask, the more we answer and look and study and hypothesize, and more we figure out. And I think, you know, we're in this moment of shift and change that may never stop, but at the very least right now it's in a very rapidly advancing progressive state. And I think will look back on it and have very different perspectives in 5-10 years from now.
So you're just saying about our overall knowledge of how reptiles work, you think? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think with time and more people getting hands-on with more animals, more understanding, more information kind of comes out just over time. I think that's just and generally how it's going to go. The more people putting their effort into understanding species and just working with them, I think over time it's just going to be understood. I mean, for example, ball pythons, when they were first coming in, they were mean, they were difficult, they didn't eat well. People did not recommend them like they do now. And because so many people were devoted and they looked past that challenge, accepted it and figured it out, they were devoted to it, and they've kind of made that a non-issue. And, you know, for a bunch of other reasons, they're establishing a non-issue. I think it's just a path on the progression timeline that we're at. So
yeah, you know, that's a great point. I can definitely see that change in the hobby since I've, you know, progressed through it. You know, just the longevity. I mean, just the lifespan of NPR I've sort of seen that, and how I've seen the shift in myself. You know, where I remember like when I was first getting back into snakes, it was this idea that, you know, I'm going to be a snake breeder, and oh my God, how awesome would it be just to work with, you know, snakes all day. And like, you know, oh my God, I'm going to be like a snake scientist and be able to sell these snakes and pay my bills, and oh, life is going to be great. And this is just going to be the best thing ever. And I remember sitting down and sort of like, before I got into carpets, I was sort of in this ball python thing. And it's like, my whole mindset was, okay, so what do I want to produce, and how am I going to produce it, and what's the most efficient way to do that, right? And the idea was just about putting genetics together rather than like having this, you know, trying to understand what the species was about. You know what I mean? It was more about like, oh, you would listen to people talk about how to breed them, and you would just kind of follow the same thing, thinking that, you know, I'm just going to take this and just apply it here. So that's not really important. What is important is, you know, I need a, you know, back in the day, it was like, I need a Axanthic spider so I can breed it to this, you know, Axanthic pastel, and this Axanthic, you know, whatever. I've drawn a blank on ball python names, but you know what I'm saying? And then when I found carpets, that same sort of mentality like kind of went over, and that seemed to be, I mean, I remember listening to Reptile Radio, and it was the same type of thing, right? You'd always be talking about, oh, I'm going to breed that. Even the early days of NPR, that's what it was about. Oh, I need this gene so I can make caramel zebra Axanthics, and you know, and there's not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think that now that sort of idea that you're going to get rich overnight has kind of been squashed. Is sort of like, okay, why do I like these things? And now you have people that are getting into it that are sort of just fascinated by the animal again, you know? So I've seen that shift. I've seen the shift of, I see it, I hear it more and more on all the podcasts I listen to. It's like, move my collection down. You know, I heard Justin and Jake were talking about it the other night on THP. They're at this point where, and I heard Jake going through this process when he kind of came back into it. I'm like, you know, he sort of like kept a small collection, and every week he's adding new snakes and new snakes and new snakes. And it's like, holy shit, man, you must have a lot of snakes, you know? And now they're like, you're at this point where it's like, oh man, it's not fun anymore because it's all work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I know that feeling. I have over 100 snakes here, and I'm just like, yeah, every week.
Right.
It's a lot, but I had more. I had a lot more.
Right.
You know, I've whittled things down. I've gotten rid of entire species, you know, species that I love, that I'm just like, I can't do this because I'm more passionate about seeing what these Apodora do. So I cannot justify having these 8-foot boas as well as these 13-foot pythons.
Right. Right.
I'm not somebody with a large amount of space and money. So
I think too, for me, like I was always sort of torn. I've always had the sort of keeper mentality, but I think that, and I've said this before on NPR, it's like if you want to be, I guess in those days, I talk about it like it's like, I guess it was 20 years ago. But like in those days, it was sort of like if you didn't breed, you weren't anybody. You know what I mean? Like in order to have some credibility, you had to be breeding X amount or work with X amount of species or whatever. And like I always felt that if you really wanted to learn a species, you sort of have to focus on that species, you know, rather than having all these different things that sort of like I think I don't know.
There's merit to both.
Yeah.
Like there's merit to both avenues. Like the people who are hyper focused on one species and have 100 of that species know those things inside and out.
Yeah, but like Gary, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't breed jungles. Well, maybe he did at some point. I don't know, but he's well known for his diamond pythons, and he's got them figured out.
Yeah,
like nobody else.
Yeah,
you know. But yeah, it's always this back and forth that's like, well, whereas if I think, do you think that maybe the idea, I mean, you know how this goes, right? We've all been there. You listen to a podcast and you hear somebody talking about a species and they're super passionate about said species and you're like, oh, they sound badass. I want to get them too. And then you start like going down the rabbit hole and you're like, oh man, how cool would these be? And next thing you know, you have a pair and then 2 pairs and 3 pairs or whatever. As opposed to
snakes.
Yeah. As opposed to taking your time with a species and maybe taking at least the season, let's say, and sort of getting your footing with them,
like for one pair or something.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Well, you could even have 2 pairs of the same species, but like not having carpets, womas, blackheads, green trees, macklots, scrubs, and bolins, and think you're gonna figure out bolins.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, that's a lot. You'll be spread thin.
Right.
Yeah. So. Just the amount of time to devote and observe and pay attention to a large collection is challenging.
Yeah.
Like I know each of these animals, but you know, there's ones I know more intimately.
Right.
Ones I've had longer, the ones that are in glass front enclosures or whatever. So there's definitely an avenue of, if you go too far, you're almost doing yourself a disservice as far as what you could learn.
Yeah. But having variety has also helped me look at things a different way, right? You know, having a skink and monitors and geckos and snakes is sort of like, oh, wait a minute. You know?
It's kind of like having a well-rounded perspective, if you will.
Yeah. I think that's why I always appreciated like what you and Owen would bring to the table with your zoo background, right? I mean, you guys have worked in the zoos where you've kind of done this for a living, but you may not, well, Owen worked with mammals, but still like some of that knowledge that he got from that, I believe that he applies that to what he does with reptiles, you know?
Yeah, it's a mechanical, like natural thing. You just, once you get into that mindset of working in zoos, the way you care for animals is more comprehensive and like strategic, I guess. And so you become comprehensive and organized, and you have your methods, and it's different for sure, but you definitely bring things home, like certain little habits and protocols and behaviors for sure.
So how does a zoo figure out how to breed a species?
It's usually up to the keepers. I mean, if they've got the green light to go ahead and do something and they want to do it, if the staff have the know-how and the ability to cycle or do whatever it is for the animals, they'll do it just like we do. You know, they confer with other folks in you know, the similar capacities that work with them, study what other people have done, follow other recommendations. There's a lot of publications in zoos. So like, if it's a managed species, there's a species survival program, which usually details a breeding plan.
I'm talking about a species that hasn't been bred.
If it hasn't been bred, I mean, Yeah, kind of the same thing without any guidelines, without any publications for that species. They'll talk amongst one another. A lot of the professionals in the management and zoos that are making those types of decisions communicate with, other colleagues and other facilities. And so they kind of know who they can reach out to bounce ideas off of. But,
Gotcha.
If it's a new species that hasn't been bred and there really isn't a roadmap to it, they're kind of up to their own discretion, budget, and physical limitations as far as what they want to try usually.
How many times would that zoo have to reproduce that animal to be to sort of put it in writing that these are the protocols?
I think everybody would look at it from a very science-based background where you have to be able to repeat it. Right. So it would be definitely remarkable and applauded and noted on the first success, right?
Sure, yeah.
And then, generally during that, whatever notes were collected at that time will be revisited and embellished and added upon the next go around. And if they have success a second and third time, I would say 3 times is probably, if you can do it 3 times with more than just one female, like if you can do it with a couple pairs, a couple different individuals, repeat the process, but change a couple variables as far as the animals involved and show that it can be done multiple times, that's when it's successful. And then if another zoo can take that protocol and run with it and then have their own success, at that point it's, you run with it. So,
right. Yeah. I guess that makes me think of like why Boelen's pythons, you take that species in particular, why I think people sort of think that it having that price tag is sort of hurting the species rather than helping the species, because to your point, right, if you have a pair and they produce, does that mean you were successful? Is this a one-off, as opposed to being able to sort of replicate that same thing that you did in the same place with a different pair? Then you're sort of on to something. Right. But if you're doing it just with one pair, yeah, you're breeding it.
Yeah,
maybe if you do it 3 times, but
yeah, it's still success, but it's not like at that huge pinnacle of like undisputed, like,
right,
this is the roadmap. Yeah, I mean, as far as the price tag goes, I would say there's probably a happy medium somewhere in there. There's probably a too cheap and a too expensive for everything.
Yeah, 100%.
So
I just think that if it's 10 grand, that's what they go for, right? Then
I can tell you right now that their price point is keeping some people from buying. Not everybody. There are people who don't care and will absolutely throw money around like that. And if I had that kind of dough, I would too.
Sure. Yeah.
But
I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying that it might.
Yeah, like it's definitely a roadblock to getting them in keepers' hands.
Even if it's just like one keeper, like if I had 20 grand and I say, oh, okay, I want to go buy some Boelen's pythons, I'm only going to be able to get a pair. As opposed to if I have 20 grand and I want to do Apodora, I can get a bunch. You know what I mean?
And pay to outfit the room.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah,
probably take the wife out to dinner after.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Distract her from the new shed in the back that has 4 huge pythons in it. Right. Yeah. There's definitely something to be said as that to a degree is limiting the spread of possible success and understanding of that species. It's not obviously a complete hindrance because people do have them and they are somewhat selling, but like we are not buying a male for our female at the shop anytime soon, strictly because of the price point.
Right.
Not because of availability or other ethical reasons. It's strictly because they're 10 grand and it's just silly.
So do you have a thought? You've worked with it at the shop. How long have you had that female?
We've had this female since she was a little Neo. Like 3 years now, maybe more.
So do you have a thought like, okay, the snake gods give you a male.
Mm-hmm.
What have you guys thought about, like how you would try to reproduce it? I know Kabilka, he's doing it, right? Doesn't he have a pair of them?
Yeah, he's got a pair.
I think
I know
Casey's working with him, right?
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he was working with them. I know he's out there, and I know Summer.
Summer, yeah,
I've talked with her about some of the cage design and things, but yeah, I didn't realize Casey was involved. I think that again, having multiple people with different perspectives and approaches is going to be like, you know, more tools in the toolbox for Justin over there to potentially be successful. But
right.
Yeah, we've talked about it. I mean, especially because we have the CNC machine now, and we're looking towards the future about how we're going to redo the breeding room, the displays, things like that as this female ages, and we start getting close to that time where we should start looking for a young male and set ourselves up for him to age kind of around the same time she'll be maturing. We want to obviously give them something big because they will reach a decent size, but I think we're on board with the overhead basking is probably a really good way to go, especially in PVC, because if we were running like heat panels or something, it'll be hard for that heat to dissipate at night. Whereas if we just have an overhead heat lamp and add a fair amount of ventilation overhead in the back of the shop with how much air volume is in there, we shouldn't have any issues getting them cooled. We have this area by the back roll-up door that in the winter can get pretty cold. So I think we'd probably do something where we can give them the space and the thermal gradient to get really cold, and then try and, you know, I don't think we'd cohab them. I think we'd probably do the sporadic introduction method, you know, certain times of the year. But yeah, I mean, we seem to do well with managing the climate in the shop. I think that would probably be our strategy. Some big arboreal space,
Right.
but somewhat secure in the back of the shop, so it's not going to get foot traffic, and so they'll have their privacy for most of the time. And yeah, I don't know.
Are you going to have the same sort of approach to Apodora personally?
I don't think I'll be trying to get them as cold. I don't think it's as crucial for Apodora to get them as cold. I will absolutely be, I think right now, my thought process is to cycle them much like the carpets, but also diversify the food a little bit. And then add some more attention to humidity and misting their enclosures down at different times of the year. So like in the winter, let them get a little bit cooler and drier. And in the summer, really hit them. Like I've been misting them lately, and trying to keep that level of moisture up. And I'm just going to, you know, I've listened to the episode with Kevin Wolninski. I've talked to Todd, and I've kind of,
Todd has them too, right? He
does.
Yeah.
He does.
Has he tried to breed them yet, or?
He's tried multiple times. He was trying several years back, and then he took a few years off to focus on other things. And I know he's trying right now. So I haven't had any updates from him in a couple weeks on that, but I know he's trying. He gets locks and he gets the female to build follicles, he said, but he can't ever get past that point to ovulate. Yeah. So, and he's really like, he's a master of being in tune with his animals. Like he pulls that female's back end out, and he's really like palpating, he's really feeling, he's paying attention to their cycle. Like when he sent me that jungle, he's like, okay, this girl has produced for me this many times. She always produces in March. Here's where she's at in her schedule. When she comes in, run her through your quarantine, feed her this, then a few days later, feed her this, a few days later, feed her this, boom, boom, boom. You follow the schedule, get her to breed, she'll go for you. And he's like that in tune with his animals. Right. So I think he'll get it. I think he probably hasn't changed a lot, but I imagine he does tinker with some of his like feeding and temp values a little bit. So I don't think he's necessarily, you know, a ride the course and be patient. I think he likes to tinker with some variables. So yeah, for me, I'm going to play with photo period. I'm going to play with humidity and food cycling for them. I like that I have a window here. I shut lights off when it's dark out, and I like to keep it that way and don't have cage lights on past dark. I try to stick to that pretty strictly, and I imagine with how visual these animals are, if I was like running lights in the middle of the night, it'd just throw them off so much.
Right. Yeah, I was listening to Scott and Rob on the Aussie podcast or Aussie Herp podcast talking about large monitors, and something that he brought up was about like the different lighting so basically if you're keeping an animal inside and you're giving it just your standard lighting or whatever, he equated it to if you take it outside, it's sort of like going from black and white to color type of thing, and they're supposed to see in color, but however that may stress them out and sort of whatever. So for an animal that's so visually in tune, is you have to wonder, would that matter? Does that play a part? Does that
yeah, these animals, I mean, because I have 2 of them in glass front cages, they give me all the behavioral feedback I need to know that they watch everything. They watch everything. They are always paying attention. Like if I'm touching another cage in the stack and they're still in hiding, they'll like poke their head up, be like, what the hell is going on up there? They'll literally like stop what they're doing to watch if I do anything that catches their eye.
They're almost like, people talk about retics and berms and stuff and, how strong they are if they, wrap around you or whatever, that kind of thing. But like, it's almost like, and maybe it's just the retics that I've been involved with have been overweight, but it's like dealing with somebody that's overweight and strong as opposed to somebody who's lean and mean and strong. And to me, that's what Apodora is like. It's like, holy hell, man.
Yeah, they're like the what do they call them? They're the triathlete as opposed to just the deadlifter, like the sumo wrestler or whatever. Yeah, there's something like, like people have like farm boy strength. They're just naturally strong, but kind of thick. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's something else, man. They're very powerful snakes. They have, if you keep them lean and you don't put any excess body fat on them and you can really just feel like all that muscle, they are no joke, dude. My littler one, he's, I guess, going on 2.5. If I hold him the wrong way, he hurts my fingers.
Yeah.
He pulls my fingers the wrong way and it hurts.
Yes.
Yeah. That female got around my arm and just her grip just to hold on. The way she was going, she didn't have like a good grip and she sort of like fell backwards. I was holding her the other day. She wrenched my arm super hard and she's only like, 2.5 inches in diameter. She's not that big, but she's still, 8 feet long and really freaking powerful.
Even olive pythons to me don't have the same strength. Yes, they're strong.
Yeah.
And again, this is just my experience, but it's just, they're just different, man.
They're different animals.
Not a joke.
That's why I think so. If we're looking at pythons and harder to breed species on the spectrum, I think they're up there. I would venture to guess that if they were more available and more people had them, they might not be regarded as extremely difficult, maybe challenging, but probably in the same ballpark as something like a scrub. I just don't think that they're all that available. And then, everybody talks about how hard it is to get males. Yeah. Which is funny because I have 2.
Yeah, so, that's a rarity, man.
Yeah. But, I think it's, when you think about like with the green tree market,
right?
Those guys, some of them would have loved to produce pure localities, but if they don't have that available, then,
right,
they're going to breed what they're going to breed. And I think there's an element of that to that too. So I think they just haven't been super available. People don't know about them. I mean, still to this day, people don't know what they are. So
yeah, people will equate them to an olive python or.
You see Justin's comment down there. Oh, that's good.
That's great.
That's good. Yeah, and the lungs of a chimney.
Oh, that's great.
That's hilarious. Dude, I'm sorry. My gopher snake right here is doing that full Woma excavation thing in some sandy chips for the last half an hour. She's just digging a different path. This is the coolest thing to watch. I'm like, you can't eat food to save your life, but you can sure dig a tunnel.
Yeah, that's fascinating, man. When you see that kind of stuff.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I guess with Apodora, I guess you're right. I guess part of it is availability. Part of it is people not really knowing what it is. Part of it is I would imagine that, that's a challenging snake, just as far as the size and the whole idea that they could, the female could kill the male type of deal,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
they're definitely snake eaters. That's for sure.
Yeah. So it's, there's just, I just wondered, like, why, one of the things I often wonder is, like, why does a species, like, why Boelens did they get this and, Apodora got that? Is it the color? Is it the look? Is it that's what was pushed?
I think about that a lot. I do think there's something sexy about a huge black velvety looking, like, iridescent python. Like that. I mean, you can't deny that. That thing's badass. Huge, jet black, those massive head plates. It's velvety looking. Catch it under the sunlight after a fresh shed sitting there. Whew, that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful animal. There is no denying that.
Yes.
But I do agree. I don't understand why Apodora have not gotten something similar in regard. But I don't know.
We used to talk about Halmaharas, and, like, I remember me and Rob talking about this on one of our trips or something, and we were sort of saying that, our Halms, does everybody want Halmaharas because they want to be the person that produces them, or do they really want to work with that species? Or is it a check? Like, I want to check that I bred these. Is it, like, what is that? And then, I'm sure podcasts and YouTubes and stuff like that sort of influence that a bit,
Sure.
And it's like, check out this cool species, hard to breed. Like right now we're talking about Boelens, so there's people out there that'll be like, oh man, I wish I could get some Boelens. I'd figure out how to breed them, and just that challenge that's laid down, as opposed to, you don't really hear. I mean, geez, in the 11 years we did NPR, we've had 3 people talk about Apodora.
Yeah.
Not because we didn't want to, there's nobody to talk about them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, very few people have more than one. Even fewer people have success breeding, Yeah. So your pool of people is pretty limited.
Yeah. I've heard Justin say this before, right? It's the Cuban cigar effect. No one can get them, and everybody wants them. It's a big overhyped mystique type of thing,
Yeah.
I think it's part of it.
If white lips become predictable-ish to breed, do you think the hype on them would dissipate?
I think, well, I'll speak for myself, right? When I got into white lips, I was sort of captivated by this beautiful rainbow snake. And I got to tell you, man, that, when I got the pair that I had at Carpet Fest, and I had them out back and they were in the sun, dude, they were beautiful.
Yeah.
Like,
they're stunning.
You know what I mean? Like, just a beautiful snake.
Mm-hmm.
They just, for me, just were like, I'm just not into that whole, like, every time I'm going in, this thing is going to bite the shit out of me. Or like, I have to have like these specific conditions to sort of like, get it to thrive. I similar to what I said earlier on in the show, right? In my experience with working with, I think I've worked with 33 species of python. And I think that the mistake that I've always made is I just have that mindset that it's a python. Why would it be different? And I think they have these just little nuance, even carpets. I believe, we were talking about Darwin carpets, but I think there's something different about them, man. I know in theory there shouldn't be, right? Because I guess in theory you could say that they're the same as Papuan carpets, right? They're the same as Cape York carpets, but
dude,
there's something different about them.
They are different. They are different. So I've been leaving my male alone with the female for the last month and a half, right? Just like, screw it. But now everybody else is progressing further along in their breeding process, and I haven't seen anything out of them. So I'm going to try and offer them a small meal today. But just moving the male, he holds himself different. He anchors himself different. He moves different. He corrects his pathway different than some of my other animals. And then the Darwin female, she does the same thing. I mean, to me, the more I think about it, the more I take them out and handle them and think about it, the more I feel like they are much closer to a Ruffy or a Chondro in the way they move. And the more I think about that, I wonder how much I need to change my way of keeping from terrestrial belly heat to maybe offer a little more vertical space and go overhead heat. I don't know.
I 100% believe that, like, so in my discussion with Rob and Keith, when we were talking about this, Darwin's came up, and I say a lot that, like, and again, this could just be my thinking, right? And what I was exposed to. I remember when Darwin's first became available. I remember how difficult it was for everybody over here on the East Coast to produce them. I remember Jason Balin, talking to Jason Balin, like, hey man, did you produce any Darwins? No, I can't get them to go. Well, what, well, why? Well, maybe they mature later or whatever the case would be. And it just seemed like no matter who, and you think about it, do you see a lot of them, pure Darwins produced? I mean, there's a handful of people that do it. I don't know if that's just because nobody gives a shit about them, or is it because that they're difficult to breed? So here's the things that I've noticed, both in the wild and in captivity. They are highly arboreal. I think they're probably the most arboreal of all the carpets, in my opinion. I mean, I think about just us looking for them, right? We looked we scoured, the botanical gardens looking for these things. We know they're there. We looked everywhere for them. You know where we didn't look? Up. And like Gavin comes over and he's just like, oh, there you go, right there. Like, what the holy shit.
Yeah, see, that makes me wanna change how I keep my Darwins. That kind of seals the deal. I would rather see them in like a 3x3 by 18 with an overhead basking light,
100%.
a couple perches, some nesting on the ground, but then cut heat off at night and just have overhead heating.
Yeah. I think that's the other thing with them. I think that, again, it's my little snapshot in the Northern Territory, but it's hot, man. And like, we went to the Northern Territory at the same time of year that we went to Cairns, and it's just different. It's just, round about the same time, but the heat was just different. It was just different. So I have to wonder, is it a feast or famine? Do they have to be kept a little warmer? To your point, right? Maybe they need a warmer basking spot. Maybe they don't need ambient temperatures that are higher, but maybe they need a warmer basking spot. Maybe they need to, I don't know, they need to be up to feel secure. Maybe that makes them feel comfortable. Gavin's talked about how they never came down to even breed. They never hit the ground to breed. Like he everything was done up in the trees. So I don't know. Maybe that makes a difference. Maybe little things like that. And then you think about that, right? It's something so simple as, giving it something to perch on high up, like trees, as opposed to, like, the one thing I noticed about the one that I saw was that it sort of was perched like a tree boa, where it's multiple coils on a branch, as opposed to a chondro where it's just kind of draped.
Yeah. I definitely think that that's probably the more, we'll say, naturalistic way to go.
Yeah.
As far as behavioral stuff goes, although at the same time, I know Todd doesn't do that and he breeds them. So it's kind of like, there's that little asterisk that's like, not everybody does it. So there's, maybe there's also the element of having your animals dialed in or whatever.
Could it be that he's so many generations in?
It's possible. I mean,
his have just adapted to, you know what I mean? Because there has to be some sort of like idea that the more the further along that they're captive bred, the more generations that they're along, I would imagine that they're going to not need those same parameters as, say, more of a wild caught.
Yeah, it's possible that because he's been working with them longer than a lot of us, that he's just, he's had some success, which is translated into more success and understanding and more success and understanding. And as generations go on, I bet the same is true for Nick. Nick produces Darwins seemingly every year, or most years. Suck. So, maybe they are, maybe there is an element to that. Maybe, maybe Todd is the outlier. Maybe he does have an extra layer of like, he's got some good stock that's been around long. I don't know. I would love to pick his brain on that issue, but
you should ask them about as far as too, right? With like what you were saying earlier, just compatibility, right? I mean, is it possible that the group that he got was super compatible as opposed to the group that got over here on the East Coast is just not compatible?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, who knows? Like, I'm not well versed on how many individuals of the Darwin lineage and subspecies or whatever we're calling it. I don't know how much of our founding stock, how diverse it is. So I don't.
So here's another question: with what is Todd working with as far as like, do you know the bloodline that he has? There's 5 bloodlines, but is he working with like the albino stuff?
So he has albinos, and he has.
Does he have any of Terry's stuff?
I don't know. I should ask him. I know he's been working with several albino breeding adult males and females, because I specifically picked my female from one of his males that's just stellar banded in color. So I know he's got a heavy number of the albino stuff. And then he also has the reduced pattern stuff that popped up in his collection, which is just stupid. Favorite. Those things are nuts.
I love them.
I saw those in person like 7-8 years ago, dude. And I knew how ridiculous they were then, but like I couldn't fully comprehend and appreciate them because I didn't have the years and time and experience. But man, I remember he was like, I don't know what these things are. He didn't even know what to call them. Like, there weren't really pictures of them out yet. He hadn't really shared them. And I was just like, whatever. RPD's already been taken, but I think it qualifies. So
yeah, I almost bought one at Tinley, and I kick myself every time for not doing it.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, God damn, I should have did that.
I definitely have had opportunities to buy some in the past at all the Pomona shows, and just like a dummy, never prioritized it. So, but yeah, those things are something else. So yeah, I guess in summation, with the exception of the individuals who've been doing it for a while that have got their success and maybe their lineage and their founding stock very well versed, I think they are different.
I think so. I don't know. I could be totally wrong with it, but I think, and so here's where I would sort of push back on your idea of like Todd, and it may go to your, the fact that he is so dialed in with the snakes. Not to say that you're not, but like you have stock from him. You live on the same, and it's probably in the same area, right? Would you say it was the same area for the most part? I mean,
now I'm 7 hours.
He's in Northern California, right?
He's down in LA. I'm like 7 hours away. I'd say I'm probably 350 miles, 400 miles north of him.
Okay. But similar type of weather, all that kind of stuff?
I think up here we get more of a dramatic high in the summer and dramatic low in the winter than he does. I think that's the biggest challenge with Southern California. Depending on where you're at, you don't get a lot. I mean, if you're near the coast, you get some cooling in the winter, some coastal breeze and cool down, but like, Southern California doesn't get a lot of rain. It stays pretty temperate most of the year for most places. And if you go further inland, it's even warmer. So it's a weird climate.
So I guess my point would be that I guess it maybe sort of pokes a hole in our argument of like his stock is, many generations. Like, why are you struggling to produce? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So maybe it's something in his place or what he does that he doesn't even know. I think that's the thing, right? I think sometimes there's things that happen that we don't even know that we're doing, and we're just like, oh, they're easy to breed. What are you talking about?
Yeah, there's obviously something that I'm missing, that's right in front of me. Right in front of me. Right. And it could just be as simple as I've been trying to breed the female in a cage all these years, like a glass front cage with lights.
Maybe
she wants a tub.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Maybe. Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe she wants less light. Maybe she who knows? Maybe she wants a perch.
Yeah, I've bred crosses, but I've never bred the pure stuff because it's the same struggle, right? It's like I can't get it to can't get them to go. I don't know. To me, I don't know. There just seems to be something different. But
Yeah.
Justin did ask, how hard is it to find a Darwin that doesn't have albino in it?
That's tough.
Well,
I mean,
there's
Nick.
There's two bloodlines that okay, let me back up. So Terry Phillip had two bloodlines of, I believe that they were F1 Darwins, and that's that is what Nick is working with. That is not albino. They're Terry Phillips' bloodline. He had two. Me and Luke Snell had both bloodlines. I could not get the second bloodlines babies to eat, because this will just show you what an awesome guy Terry is, right? When I bought that pair of Darwins, me and Luke paid $5,000 a pair. $5,000 a pair. And by the time that we got them at Tinley, the price was in half.
Oh,
it was $2,500.
Boo.
And he said that, he felt bad and he didn't have to do it, but he gave us another pair. That other pair was from the second bloodline. At the time, I didn't even know that was the case, because he didn't really say that, right? But I have CITES permits for those.
Oh, shit.
I have the actual CITES for them.
That's crazy.
Anyway, they are feisty as shit. Because I think it's like that F1 Popwin thing,
Yeah. Pretty close to the wild founding stock.
Yes, 100%. And I wonder if that has something to do with it. But I don't know, other than Nick, myself, I'm sure Kerry and Todd must have those. I would imagine that they do. At least some.
They might. I know Darwins have been a big thing for Todd for a long time. Yeah. That's the only ones that are not albino. Even so there's another bloodline that came in from South Africa, but they're also albino, because if I'm not mistaken, there's two bloodlines of albino Darwins in Australia. Okay.
There's Blondie, and then there was another albino found. And I believe that the ones that Nick and I got that throw these, Kerry got them too. So it was me, Nick, Kerry. There was a David Diamond guy. He got some. I think Julie got some, and we bought the whole clutch from Cam at Bushmaster, because of the price he was going to sell them at, and we didn't want it was just too low, especially with everybody that just invested all that money into these snakes. So bought the whole clutch, and sort of between us separated them out. That's where I believe those reduced ones may have popped out of. I'm not 100%, but I think that's where they came out, because they're different looking.
Yeah.
Anyway, they were I want to say they were from a zoo. Rob's probably going to smack me. I'm pretty sure they were from a zoo in Europe. I can't remember what zoo. I'd have to look at my notes. But anyway, I think they were distinct as well. So
that's cool.
But anyway, I don't know. That's carpet history for you, I guess.
Yeah. I just know that I will be able to breathe a little bit easier as far as understanding them. As soon as I can breathe them, I'll feel a little bit better about keeping them.
Yeah.
Because now it's getting to the point where I feel like, am I doing something like beyond wrong? Like, am I doing them, like, physically keeping them wrong?
And then you have to think, like, why would they be different than other carpets?
Well, that's literally what Todd tells me. He's like, they're not different than anything else. I'm like, God damn it. What's the secret?
I don't know, man. The wild, I can tell you, is hot, and they're high up. So,
yeah. I think whenever I can get into a house and upgrade the snake room, now that we're cutting cages, I would love to move her into 3x3.
I think even Lori had mentioned that.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, Lori's stuff she got from Nick is not the Bloodline stuff, and I think that's why she says that they're a little bit feisty out of all the carpets she has.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Those are cool.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't get the love, man, but I think they're cool. You know?
Yeah, I think they're neat.
You know, it's like then you look at you know, like the Archer River stuff. I wonder how that's going to shake out to like the Archer River stuff that I have is like, I wonder how that's going to shake out to breed.
Yeah.
I guess we'll know next year. See if they're easy like a coastal carpet or if they're going to be challenging, you know, but
yeah, I guess you'll find out in a short while.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't know if you want to. The only other two things that I had was this crazy looking. I'm going to share it.
Yeah. Pull that up. That thing's nuts.
So I always like to share a carpet python each week. And let's see. Window notes. Is it going to allow me? No, probably not. Hold on. It should pop up, shouldn't it? No.
Something tried to pop up.
Yeah. So it was this silver pepper inland. It was a cross, but you know how you and me are like suckers for stripes.
Yeah, that thing's nuts.
StreamYard, Chrome tab.
It's crazy looking. It looks like a striped cookies and cream Oreo shake snake.
Let's see. Let me try. Man, I had it queued up, but it won't come up in that picture thing. It's amateur hour here. What the hell's going on?
Technical difficulties.
Let's see if this helped it. All right, let's try it this way. I apologize. No, for some reason it won't let me share the picture. That's weird. It's like when I hit window, it doesn't come up. It's really weird. I don't know if I send it maybe in the
try sending it to me in the chat and I'll see if I can share it, see if it works on my end.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, this one's pretty wild.
Here we go. All right, that's that one.
All right, so pull that up. Share screen. Yep. Yep.
You do it?
Is it showing?
There it is.
Boom. Cool.
So obviously this was, I'm pretty sure this was produced by Morelia by Design. Darren.
Troy Basuto.
But yeah, Troy Basuta was the guy that I guess posted it up. But man, what a killer stripe.
Yeah,
I know it's a cross.
Nuts, but still, that thing's one of a kind.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool snake.
Yeah, that thing's wicked.
I'll send you this other picture too, so we can.
Yeah, that thing's nuts. So then this other one that we're gonna show up. I
think I showed this on NPR, but oh, maybe that's why, because it's a. Let's see. It's a. We talk about varied diet, and.
Yeah, Lucas fed his rough scale of fish the other day.
Did he?
Yeah. Yeah, he posted a photo of it. Thing grabbed a fish. Just like Owen did with his with that one coastal that was really stubborn of his.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, varied diet, the stuff you hear. I mean, with certain species it's like a little more. I think the reason we're so blown away with it in carpets is because we're not used to, you know, the general consensus is feeding them like rodents or whatever. So
Did you see what Owen put? So I sent it to our chat with me, Owen, you, and Lucas. Look at Owen's like, my God. He's probably like, what the hell are these guys doing?
Yeah.
He thinks I'm just sending him a random picture of a snake. Oh, that's great.
All right, so this one. So yeah, that's just a trip to me to see a coastal eating eggs.
It's eating eggs.
It looks like it also ate whatever was laying those eggs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild, man. So
yeah. The only other, like, other than like natural snake eaters, the only other thing I've heard of that's like on a crazy level like that is Lisa fed one of her king snakes cooked scrambled eggs once.
Really?
Yeah, it ate it. She just put it, she had some, she was giving her Aki. She was like, huh, I wonder. Ate it like it would have been doing it forever.
Huh.
Yeah.
I guess I guess they would eat eggs in the wild. No, I don't know. I'm not
a
blueberry
maybe.
Guy, so
I mean, they're kind of generalist feeders. They're gonna eat pretty much anything.
So, yeah, here was the question that popped up, and it said, "What's my plan? Are you keeping the lines separate or crossing them?" I think I would probably do both. You know, crossing them and then out crossing with the different lines and stuff. I think I used to be very much a bloodline, like stay with this bloodline type of thing. And then I think, like, what's the end game to that? You know, eventually you're going to have to outcross at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know? So like, yeah, I don't know. I would probably do both.
Yeah, if you can, why not?
That's going to be my approach with inlands too. That's why I want to add one of, I think you have the same ideas, to add one of Justin's line of inlands.
Yeah.
He had that different line.
That third line, yeah.
Third line. So
it's just one of those things where once you get down the rabbit hole, you're like, well, I'm already doing it for poplin carpets. Might as well do it for these too. Just get them all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hard not to.
Yeah, I know, man.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah, there was somebody on Facebook that posted a carbid eating an egg, and of course, everyone gave him crap for doing it. It's like, well, there it is in the wild, man. So that person was
right.
If
the snake's doing it, then you're wrong.
Yeah.
Bottom line, snake disagrees.
Yes, he didn't read the book. She didn't read the book. So.
Yeah, it's so funny.
All right, man. Well,
I don't really have anything else, man. It's still way too cold where you're at in the East Coast, so I still don't have my geckos. I still have baby gecko tanks and adult gecko tanks to stare at and tease me.
That's so crazy, the influence we have on each other. Like now we're all got geckos and, you know, monitors and all kind of crazy shit.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Nipper messaging me randomly in the middle of the day, taunting me with other geckos.
Yeah,
you need these.
Oh,
these, right?
What are you doing?
I do. I do need those. Thanks.
I sent him my list, right? I have a list of I just have like my, you know, it's like my wish list. We all have wish lists of species that we would want to work with and whatnot. And I sent him my list, and he's like, "No, this is incomplete. You need to add a couple to this." I'm like, oh, okay. Chameleon geckos being one of the top ones.
Yeah, those are wicked.
Cool stuff. But
I was sending photos of rattlesnakes to Nipper the other day, just giving it right back.
A little jab.
Yeah. Sent him some photos of the Catalinensis that I worked with. So nice.
That's cool.
A rattleless rattlesnake.
See, he likes all type of geckos, where I've sort of just focused my vision on like Aussie geckos, you know.
Yeah.
But like he's like cave geckos and stuff. Holy shit, man. Like
there's a lot of cool geckos out there, I do have to admit. I mean, all the Chinese cave geckos are nuts. All the Australian knobtails and leaf tails and spiny tails. Dude, I mean, you could, it's it's its own rabbit hole with rabbit holes amongst it. I mean, it's a crazy tree of geckos in the same way that like colubrids and carpet pythons is. It's nuts.
Yeah, this is something that has had me thinking that, with this Lacey-Act nonsense it's critical to get the stuff you don't have, you won't be able to get now rather than later.
As not an irrational thought, like listening to Nipper talk about how he's just gone on this gecko spree in that last episode with Jason and Luke. He mentioned that he's like, last time I was over in Europe, I spent so much over there at the ham show because I wasn't sure if this would be the last time I'm going over there to get stuff because things are going to go sideways or whatever. Yeah. So I think it's a very valid concern.
Yeah. That's sort of what my approach was in the early days with carpets. It's like, I don't know if these will be available. And it's so funny. Like when the guy that I bought snakes from is contacting me to get snakes from that, it's just weird,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You don't have these? I bought them from you. He's like, no, I don't have them. I'm like, God damn it. So
it's funny.
So yeah, with that, make sure you support USARK. Join, donate, subscribe.
Go contact your senators.
Yeah, 100%.
It's really easy to do. USARK made it stupid easy. You can go to their website, follow the link, find out who your senators are, get to their websites and contact info, copy and paste the pre-written, very professional, eloquently typed out message to send to them. I sent it to both of mine and I got responses back, a couple days later. Obviously they're on recess right now for a few weeks. And when they come back, we're going to, go right back at it. So join up, become a member. I think what they were saying is that the number of membership looks more important than the financial donations, because having a larger community when they go to the hearings and say, look, this is our constituency, this is our base of people. If that number is as large as possible and it can't be ignored, that has a lot of weight. Yeah. So, the donations are important, but if you're not a member, it's really easy to fix that and get other people on board with membership, which is why Lucas is doing his $300 voucher. Become a member, snap a screenshot, send it over to him to show it, tag some people, share it with some people. You get entered in to win a $300 gift card to get some pretty awesome snakes from Lucas.
Yeah. So and for us, MoreliaPythonRadio.com. That's everything you need to know. And if you want to get in contact, just send an email to info@MoreliaPythonRadio.com. And
subscribe to the YouTube.
Yep, YouTube and
Patreon's up there,
and
Teespring
and all that stuff.
Oh yeah. Hit it all.
So good show, man.
Yeah, always good chat. We miss Lucas, but that's okay.
That's all right.
He's doing good things.
Yeah,
taking care of his better half.
He would have gotten in trouble if he would have. Wanted to talk snakes.
Yeah. But he already had to blow off Super Bowl Sunday hanging out with her. They were going to go to Monterey, and instead he had her help carry and build cages in their living room. So I think she deserves to be prioritized today.
Smart man.
So
thanks everybody for listening, and I guess we'll see everybody next week, and till then, enjoy your coffee.
Yes sir.
All right.
Alrighty, see ya.
See yous.